Making headlines tonight, Barbados drops its mask mandate and removes its COVID-19 travel protocols. The FTC hearing to determine if the power company will get a rate increase starts with opening statements. Barbados' natural gas supply affected by the passage of Hurricane Fiona. And coming up in sports, TKR's qualification for the CPL playoffs postponed after today's defeat by the Patriots.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Barbados is removing the mask mandate and discontinuing all COVID-19 travel protocols from tomorrow. This was disclosed just after 5 this evening by Acting Prime Minister Cynthia Bradshaw. The decision is based on the island's low COVID-19 positivity rate and consultation with the Emergency Operations Committee.
The wearing of masks generally will now be optional. However, mask wearing remains mandatory for persons in nursing homes, private hospitals and senior citizens' homes, persons in healthcare institutions, including staff, visitors, clients, and patients, all institutions where medical and dental services are provided, persons in prison, including staff, prisoners, and visitors, staff and students at all educational institutions, all nurseries and daycare facilities for both children and adults, and of course persons who have COVID-19, as well as persons who are traveling on public transportation.
Acting Prime Minister Bradshaw also revealed the discontinuation of all COVID-19 travel protocols.
Conscious of the direction in which the rest of the world is going as well, effective tomorrow, we will also discontinue all COVID-19 related travel protocols for Barbados. This means that we will be joining 95% of the countries in the Western Hemisphere who preceded Barbados in going in this direction. There will therefore be no testing requirements for entering Barbados, whether you are vaccinated or unvaccinated.
In the event of a COVID spike or some other development, there are legal provisions to deal with the matter.
The state of emergency still continues. Parliament, when it last met earlier this month, agreed to extend the state of emergency until the 21st of December. And that gives us a legal and regulatory framework to make adjustments. We've been adjusting downwards in terms of the level of restrictions on Barbadians, but if necessary, there's all of the legal powers that were here from March of 2020, those are still available to us. So on the advice of the CMO, if it is necessary, we do have the opportunity to tighten things again.
Meanwhile, 45 people, 27 males and 18 females, tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday. They were among the 388 tests conducted. The cases consisted of 10 people under the age of 18 and 35 who were 18 years and older. The number of people in isolation facilities was 33, while 298 were in home isolation. The Fair Trading Commission heard opening statements in the Barbados Light and Power Company's rate hearing during the post-lunch session today. It happened even as the Commission awaits a ruling from the High Court on its decision not to grant a 2-month adjournment to the Office of Public Counsel as requested. Lisa Broom was there today and she joins us live now. Lisa, it seems as though there was some progress in terms of the actual rate hearing itself.
That's right, Shane, and that was indeed the case as the FTC heard opening statements from the applicant, the Barbados Light and Power Company Limited. Now, of course, that does not say that what preceded in the morning session and yesterday were not important, but we'll get back to that in just a moment. Now, in the post-lunch session, lead counsel, King's Counsel Ramon Aline, laid out the case for why the power company should be given an increase in rates at this time, acknowledging there is no ideal time to ask Barbadians to pay more for the utility. Now, he cited challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, the ashfall and Hurricane Elsa that have put a strain on the pockets of many, but he said the rate hike is needed for the company to meet the expenses involved in supplying a service which is safe, adequate, reasonable and reliable. Mr. Allen said since its last rate review in 2010, the power company had successfully managed to control costs and provide affordable rates for the most vulnerable in society, although indicators from as early as 2019 showed the need for a rate increase. Now, he also took issue with how the power company is being portrayed. He said coverage is unbalanced and inequitable, and he gave some examples of what he says they've got right.
Barbados should formally join the IOM. The formal request was submitted by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and to our permanent representative at a permanent mission in Geneva. And we are honored that Barbados was able to benefit from the myriad of assistance which is available and look forward to continuing.
Well, we do apologize. That, of course, was not Ramon Allen and not the Fair Trading Commission's hearing that is ongoing. We'll try to get that extract for you in just a moment. But in relation to the types of increases people could possibly expect, Mr. Allen said bill increases could range from 5 to 20%, depending on the tariff on which the customers receive their service.
In anticipation of the disproportionate number of low-income customers with usage up to 150 kilowatt hours within the domestic tariff, bill increases have been capped not to exceed $6 per month for customers with such usage. This amounts to protection of 41,275 customers, an increase of 9,816 customers as compared to 2010.
Now, Shane, in the morning session, Acting Public Counsel Sharon Dean told the commissioners, led by Dr. Donnelly Carrington, that her office is seeking judicial review of yesterday's decision not to adjourn the proceedings for 2 months. She had asked for the delay essentially to enable her to bring herself up to date on the proceedings and be properly able to make a case for those she's representing, including the 30,000 member strong Barbados Association of Retired Persons. Ms. Dean argued that under normal circumstances, a tribunal of first instance, which in this case is the FTC, knowing that a higher court is looking into the matter, would stay its proceedings and await the ruling of the higher court. She said to do otherwise would be unreasonable, unjust, and unfair. And as is customary, the other interveners were given a chance to weigh in, and it was at that point the team of Tricia Watson and David Simpson indicated they were joining the Public Counsel's application before the High Court.
Our intention is precipitated by our firm belief that the Commission's decision to deny the application for an adjournment is, among other things, a breach of the principles of natural justice and is prejudicial to the intervention of the Barbados Association of Retired Persons, prejudicial to the consumers of Barbados who are represented by Public Counsel, and ignores the policy of the Utilities Regulation Act and the Fair Trading Commission Act, both of which have as primary purposes the protection of consumer interests in Barbados.
Now, after their presentations, the committee conferred for about 2 hours and came back and denied the motion. Chairman Carrington said the acting public counsel did not present any new information, nor did she identify any error in law, jurisdiction, or the facts to convince the commission it had made an error in its ruling yesterday. Shane, the commission also went on to hear other motions, giving the Watson-Simpson team until Monday to be heard in a matter on an earlier FTC depreciation decision, and it also ruled against the power company as it was trying to get what is known as the accountability clawback clause removed from the list of issues that it has to address during the hearing. It wrapped up just about 4 o'clock, and Commissioner Carrington said that they would resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. Of course, we will continue to bring you coverage of this rate hearing.
Thank you for that comprehensive coverage, as always, Lisa. Barbados' natural gas supply has been impacted by the damage wrought in Puerto Rico by Hurricane Fiona. Prime Minister Mia Omar-Motley made the revelation this afternoon as she addressed the United Nations 77th General Assembly in New York.
This morning, I received news about difficulties for our own natural gas supply in my own country, and I suspect others in this part of the world, because of the facilities, the installations that have been affected out of Puerto Rico for access to natural gas. This comes at a time when access to that commodity has already been affected by the war in Ukraine and the decision by Russia to cease supply to Europe.
Noting that natural gas is seen as a bridge to clean energy, Ms. Motley suggested this could undermine the island's commitments to reducing emissions and adapting to climate change.
When we match this with the reality that we have not planned in granular form how we will have the capacity to meet the commitments that we have made for net zero, and I'm a big defender of net zero, as you know, then I see trouble ahead of us, and we must pause and get it right. Our small states are making commitments that the world wants to hear. But when those commitments are undermined by the inability to supply the electric cars or the batteries necessary to sustain renewable energy, then we know we have a problem.
Despite the signing of the recent compact between government and the social partnership, some retailers have not dropped their prices yet. And recognizing this, People Empowerment Minister Kirk Humphrey is calling on them for full compliance to ensure all, including the poor and the vulnerable in the country, can benefit from the reductions. He made the plea as the Vinci Bim Food Market, spearheaded by Carrie Grow and multinational wholesalers, donated $10,000 in produce to his ministry and the Kiwanis Club of Barbados North.
I am very concerned that if these prices remain at the level that they're at, the poor in Barbados will not be able to continue to survive. And so we are making another plea to the business community, the persons in Barbados who control prices, to put prices in such a way that, yes, they reduce their profit margin, but all of us got to take a hit. So that they take a hit, so that other people can survive the hit that they're facing. I feel that prices can be lower. I've seen cases where when you look at all the costs considered, the prices should not be as high as they are.
And the director of Carrie Grow, Damien Bowen, says the Vinci Food Market is mindful of the high prices, and that's why it's looking to give consumers value for money, while filling any voids in the market.
One of the pillars of this Vinci Bim Food Market here in 6 Roads, St. Philip, is price. Indeed, while we seek to fill any gaps in current availability as multinational orders to us Carrie Grow, the exporters out of St. Vincent, we are also on a never-ending pursuit to provide some of the best prices so that consumers can realize some measure of ease in their food bill.
Coming up, a call for a more inclusive society for the deaf. As Barbados joins the world in observing the International Week of Deaf People in 2022, calls are being made for more deaf people to be included in the workforce and mainstream society. The way this as president of the Barbados Council for the Disabled, Carrie-Ann Eiffel says there's some way to go before full inclusion is achieved. However, she believes its newly launched Deaf Ambassador program will help to close the gap and transform the country.
Barbados is not only important to the able-bodied. Barbados is where we all live. Barbados is where we all grow up, where we all strive to work, where we all raise our families, where we encounter our friends, where we live through our griefs and we live through our triumphs. And today, the launch of the Deaf Ambassador Project is another step for the Barbados Council for the Disabled to help you recognize that we, the disabled community, have a contribution to make.
Meanwhile, Labour Minister Colin Jordan believes employers can make adjustments to accommodate deaf and blind staff as they have valuable contributions to make.
Deaf employees can become invaluable members of the worker force and can contribute to the company's overall success. Making reasonable adjustments to the workplace can promote workplace harmony, can increase productivity, and can create an enabling environment of employee loyalty, commitment, goodwill, and high morale.
A Barbadian youth advocate has pressed for global policymakers and businesses to ensure the future of young people is given priority. Founder of the Healthy and Environmentally Friendly Youth Hay campaign and UNICEF youth advocate Ashley Lashley says youth must be meaningfully engaged to ensure their future is protected. Ms. Lashley was on the panel for the 2022 Concordia Annual Summit discussion, The Power and Potential of Youth Activism.
Personally, what I believe the business sector and policymakers need to do is to ensure that there's full transparency with us as young persons, accountability, ensure that when it comes to that, there are more paid internships for us as young persons and employability, ensuring that more young persons are given the access to technical capacity and training that is needed. But most importantly, when coming up with the solutions and ideas, we need to be meaningful engaged within the decision-making spaces.
Ms. Lashley reminded young people it's up to them to determine where they want to go in life.
Society doesn't determine your destiny. You determine where you want to go, who you want to become, and the avenue in which you need to pivot. And you'll understand why I began with that. I was born and raised, and I'm currently living in a community which is deemed ghetto. And young persons, including myself, are often stigmatized based upon the environment in which we live in. But I believe that the environment in which we live in doesn't determine our destiny, that it is up to us where we need to go and how we want to get there.
She may only have biologically mothered two, but Marie Phillips, who celebrated her 100th birthday today, has several who regard her as their mother because of the care she provided in the child welfare system. Ms. Phillips is a devoted Adventist worshiping at King Street most of her life. She is also the mother of the late Calypsonian and writer Sir Don. She was showered with love at her St. James home by her surviving daughter, grandsons, granddaughters, and great-grands. They helped her to Zoom with President, the Most Honorable Dame Sandra Mason, and a special bouquet was delivered. The former worker at the Glendale Children's Home in St. Thomas attributes her longevity to God in caring for others.
Being faithful to God and loving the people. Most of all, I just love people. But being faithful is a different situation altogether. You know, because you've got to say you love people, but then you have to show that you love them, you know. I work with childcare, and I think that I've taken my heart into that, to take people's children who had no parents and be mother and father to them all. And they've all shown me the appreciation.
And some came to visit you today. How
Yes.
did that make you feel?
Great, great, great. Great is a small word, but great.
She looks and sounds amazing. Daughter Margaret Ann Joseph, who is her main caregiver, said the love her mother shared comes back as the house is never empty.
She's surrounded by a whole lot of people who really love her. Okay. And she sees them often. Before COVID, it was church on Saturday, and most of the time she was just here. But since COVID, she hasn't left home, but home is very busy. Home is many people in and out all the time, so, and all of these grandchildren and great-grandchildren are always around, so she's never by herself for too long.
The state of squatting in Barbados dates back to the times of emancipation, according to MP Trevor Prescott. He said having former slaves tied to the plantation through housing is what now unfortunately blocks many from land ownership. Mr. Prescott, who is a member of Parliament for St. Michael East, one of the constituencies impacted by squatting, was a guest on CBC's Morning Report. His comments followed Tuesday's news that enforcement notices were served on some people in Bellevue Plantation to remove their structures in 28 days.
As the population grew and grew, the problem became even more and more intense. The state from time to time intervened. I think the last time we intervened would be with the 10-3-3 purchasing act to see if we could address these issues. And that is when we were able then to subdivide plantation lands and sell that land at $2.50 per square foot and 10 cents a square foot. So this has a long history of struggle.
Mr. Prescott added that the majority of people who squat on lands are not doing it deliberately to flout the law, but out of desperation, and that they choose it rather than be on the streets.
the majority of people that are doing these things are not doing these things because they're wicked. They're not doing these things because they have much of an option. Most of these people are homeless, and obviously, if you're homeless, when you're landless, you're obviously homeless. So those people would love to be able to go the legal route. And most of those houses that you see in my area and across other areas are almost like self-help programs where the community itself helped to construct those houses, therefore avoiding the cost of labor. There are some houses that look very good, and that's because some of the persons possess skills, but they don't have any money.
Tonight's business report is brought to you by Ansa Merchant Bank. Our greatest asset is you.
Prime Minister Mia Motley has called for the creation of a fund to ensure vulnerable countries can access global public goods. The Prime Minister made the call as she addressed the United Nations 77th General Assembly in New York. Global public goods are those whose benefits affect all citizens of the world and include things such as the environment and public health. In making the call, Prime Minister Motley noted that we live in a world where some are benefiting from crises disproportionately and egregiously.
We believe today that the most appropriate place to deal with global public goods is in fact the World Bank Group. And I'll speak more to this tomorrow, but I want to simply say that if companies, multinational companies, have contributed to the global public risk or benefit from the solutions for global public goods, then they ought to contribute to their resolution through a small percentage of their profits, funding the needs of countries.
Keeping cool is big business in Barbados. Air conditioning companies tell the business report Barbadians have been trying to stay cool during the ongoing heat wave. Officials at Sub-Zero Services and Cool Components said sales have tripled as Barbadians try to beat the heat. Two variants are most popular, as sales manager at Electric Sales and Services Company ESCO, Carlos Walters, explains.
We have seen a sharp uptick in demand for AC units because it seems these days are a lot warmer than they used to be and looking to get warmer still. So as far as residential AC sales, yes, they've definitely increased.
The air conditioning official says selecting the right unit for the room is extremely important.
The standard unit is what we're all been accustomed to over the years. Those were the ones first out in the market where they're sort of like on and off. That's what you call it. They're either on or off. So they're either working at full power or they're not once you have them in operation. The inverter unit, these are more energy efficient. They come with what we like to call a regulated motor, wherein instead of turning themselves off when they reach the desired temperature, they turn themselves down. And when the thermostat notices a temperature drop, instead of coming back on to 100% of power, they'll just turn up with just enough power to reclaim that warmth and cool the room back to the temperature you set.
Time for the second half in sports. Now let me head back on over to the sports studio and welcome back Amory Burke.
Well, I promise you some surfing news. Now, Barbados is currently in 9th position, the highest they've ever been in history, and is the highest placed Caribbean team out of the 50 countries competing at the ISA World Surf Games in Huntington Beach, California. The Belgian contingent has a total of 2,620 points and is led by top female surfer Chelsea Tuak and top male surfer Josh Burke, who are battling in repechage. Now, repechage, similar to a loser's bracket in other sports, gives surfers who lose in the main event a second chance to reach the final, albeit via a longer road. Now, France currently lead the standings on 5,180 points. To advance to the 7th round of the repechage section after a second place win that should be second place in round 6 with a wave total of 9.6. On the men's side, Burke is into round 9 of the repechage after his 12.2 12.27 wave total was good enough to be second in the heat won by Brazil's Miguel Pupo with 12.53. Unfortunately, the other Barbados team members, Caleb Rapson, Shea Allen and Chelsea Roit, battled hard but lost in round 3 of the repechage. Now, New Zealand women defeated West Indies women by 2 wickets in the second ODI at the Viv Richards Stadium in Antigua today to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series. Opting to bat first, the hosts scraped 169 for 9 off their 50 overs, led by 46 from captain Hayley Matthews and 30 from Chanel Henry. The White Ferns used 6 bowlers, with Hayley Jensen taking 2 for 27. A determined bowling effort proved futile in the end as the visitors reached the target on 171 for 8 in 40.1 overs. Maddie Green top scored with 48 and Lauren Down 33. For the Windies, Karishma Ramarak took 3 for 22 and Shakira Salman 2 for 30. The final match is set for Sunday at the same venue. And organizers of this year's Long Bay Community 5K Run, Walk and Ride say they have been receiving tremendous interest ahead of next month's event. Lots of prizes are up for grabs in the annual competition, which starts and ends at Roslyn Shop in Long Bay.
Because of the lifting of the COVID restrictions, this year we will see the return of the little ones, the 2K race for the children, and the 5K race for the BMX riders. We expect a heightened number of competitors this year because of the lifted restrictions, and I want to say to the Barbadian public that the registration forms will be available from Roslyn Shopping Bar from the 1st of October. We expect the race to start at 4 p.m. sharp on the 30th, but registration will begin at 3 p.m.
Derek Jones is grateful for sponsors and volunteers who ensure the 18th edition of the event is a success.
That's our news. Good night and be good. Thanks for visiting us. To get more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.